The Iron Claw is a 2023 movie directed by Sean Durkin that's distributed by A24 and stars Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Harris Dickinson, as well as Holt McCannally, and it portrays the tragic true life story of the Von Erich family wrestling dynasty. And the film's a biodrama, which is often a difficult subject to nail. You want to find a unique angle to tell a story and not just regurgitate history, as a lot of movies do. And I think this film does a great job. As someone who doesn't really follow wrestling or sports at all, I didn't know much about this story or these real life characters. Going in, I was very fascinated with how this movie would be done. I also find it interesting that, kind of like the biopic, the sports drama, it's like a minefield when it comes to telling a story right, or, it's very easy to mess it up. And I thought this film was great. Firstly, it's technically great. The shots look amazing. It's cast very well. It has a great soundtrack. The sound mixing is very good. I think when you have a film like this, you really need everything to be perfect. You need the guys to look like wrestlers. You need them to be good actors. You need it to feel dramatic. And it nails all of that. What the film's director, Sean Durkin's doing is really good. He doesn't really treat this like a sports movie, which he could have done, but he frames it as a family drama, which is the best way, in my opinion, to do this kind of movie. For example, a lot of sports movies kind of structure themselves where the pacing's always leading up to the next big fight, and there's a sense of, are they going to win this round, or are they going to train again so they don't get knocked down? And then you're always waiting for the big final match where the crowd goes wild and there's music and you're ready to be like, oh, they're going to win. And this can be done well. I thought Creed 3 was a great example of a sports movie that, is built around the sport and spectacle and had great characters, and it isn't really bogged down by excessive drama. That's more of a blockbuster. And I thought it was really great. But the Iron Claw is more of a dramatic story, and it's more centered around a tragic story at its core. They're very different movies. I'm not saying it's better than Creed 3. I just think they're different. And when you go to feel, just get an adrenaline rush, and when you go to have, more heavy emotions, to feel like you're, I guess, learning this story or experiencing the story, as you would watching a film. It's kind of like Warrior, the 2011 movie, where the fighting and sport is a big part of it, but there's a great sense of drama, family conflict that permeates this movie, and it's enough to differentiate it from other sports films. One thing I did like is how this includes the sports tropes, such as the title cards that come up before a fight, starts, and it announces the year and the match. Only this is not so distracting in the Iron Claw. Movies like Gran Turismo, The Blind Side, or even Ford v Ferrari kind of do that annoying thing where it's like a rote run through and you just know what to expect. It's a bit like actually watching the sport where the suspense isn't there and the action is just derided from, you're watching a recreation of the sport. There's something surface level and superficial about that. You can kind of see that they're actors and the fights are choreographed. But in the Iron Claw, the film has so many character-driven moments, it really does provide a better case of immersion. For example, a lot of this movie follows the Von Erich brothers as they train under their father, and instead of showing us all of their matches, we see how they work together, how the brothers form a bond while their domineering father, who wants to make them the best, is more cold and distant. You get that relationship with these brothers who have this bond. And, the father's really engaged in molding pro wrestlers out of them, and you get that. And this is where the heart of the film is. It's about this family. And I'm not really a guy who follows sports, so I dug the dynamic of this movie and, the brothers and this dysfunctional family, how they have to support each other. And the first hour does a great job establishing each brother, showing how Zac Efron's brother, the oldest, Kevin, feels it's his responsibility to take care of his siblings. And then there's Jeremy Allen White's Kerry, who's a bit younger, and he just wants to be like his older brother. Then you have Harris Dickinson and Stanley Simon as the other younger brothers. And the first hour of this film is very well paced as you face the ups and downs, and you're just living in this family. You get to experience what they're experiencing. It's almost like a John Cassavetes film. A lot of dysfunction, but there is this real sense to it. It doesn't feel like you're watching a sports drama where it's like, when's the next, big spectacle scene? It's just mostly about this warped sense of family that their home is. And it's all setting you up for the next hour where the film examines this tragedy and how, their upbringing, how their father, how their own journeys, with this sport of wrestling, how it resulted in tragedy for this family. And it doesn't kind of come out of nowhere. I feel like the film is slowly sliding into another film. It always has this tragic core about the struggle to survive built in. The first scene in this is great. It's this black and white opening that introduces us to a wrestling match. And we see the father, Fritz Von Erich, who is taking down another opponent using this Iron Claw technique, which is kids learn. And then it shows that young Kevin and Kerry are with them, and as they're leaving this arena, the father shows that he bought a car And at this point, they're living in a trailer home, and the mother goes, "We can't afford this," but he's just, he wants to take care of his kids and his wife, the way he sees fit. And just this opening scene gives you so much insight into what the film will be about, how, the father thinks he knows what's right. And I just love how it has this really great opening that, it just builds on the rest of the film. And although it is just one cold opening, it really helps to build up the rest of the story and shows how this, father does, he thinks he's doing what's best, but he's hurting them. It's always bordering on being a sports drama, but there's this undercurrent of family tension, which, it's why I really like the film. I mentioned how sports movies always do that thing where there's a big match and they announce it with a title superimposed on the screen. This film does this so perfectly about halfway through the film, where Kevin Von Erich's pitted against Ric Flair, and the film does a great job at showing the contrast between these two, how Flair is a hot-headed, egotistical celebrity. And almost for this one moment of the film, we see this huge commercial side to wrestling, which the film is not focused on. We see what the Von Erichs are up against and how all the tragedy that surrounds them is just a small piece of this huge, massive world of popular entertainment sports. I think the movie does a great job at showing this family, and I thought it was well-paced too. The scene transitions are diligent and handled with care. I saw some people critiquing how they kind of skip over certain things, like some of the brothers' descent into drugs, or how there's a brief montage that shows us the use of a needle. We see one character snorting medicine, but, it doesn't really go into it beyond that. But I couldn't disagree more that, we needed more of that. I think it's handled perfectly. It focuses on all the core moments of their lives and, almost treats these horrible things as background. And it's about the brothers and their relationship, and it's not until tragedy happens that these awful reasons, bubble up. There's no reason to show the characters involved in drugs or descending into madness. It's all gradual, and it just shows as they witness more tragedy, you see this change in the characters. It doesn't need long-winded exposition to do this. I think when you're making a movie like this, you just need a good heart at the center, and you don't want it to feel like exploitation. And I think it really does a great job at showing the Von Erich family as real people and showing how they grew up and the challenges they had to face. I think Zac Efron is, the heart of the movie as the older brother trying to protect his siblings, and it's one of the best roles he's done in years. I really felt the pain he felt and the care he has for his brothers. At the end of the day, his performance made the film so much more three-dimensional. I just thought he did a great job. And Holt McCannely's Fritz is also great. He isn't explicitly played out as some monster, it'd be too obvious, but you get the idea that he's cold and makes his children fight for themselves. Same with the mother, who's played by Maura Tierney. She's mostly absent and quiet and distant, and, that's just probably how this mother was in this family, and that's what you need. You have all the other siblings doing a great job. Carrie, the admirer, David, also admiring his siblings, and there's the youngest, Mike, who just does a perfect job representing what a younger sibling would look like as he wants to look up to his brothers. This could have been a very sappy, sentimental, hammy movie, and it handles its subject matter so perfectly. And it has a really strong ending that honestly was making me tear up. The whole audience, I remember as I was walking out, there were some girls behind me like, that was the saddest film I saw all year. And I really did agree. It was very sad. And I like sports dramas that are good, but I also like really dramatic films with a sports lens to them. So overall, I just really like this movie. It, if you've never heard of this story or you're not into sports movies, you could still see it. It's a great drama film. So go check it out. I really like The Iron Claw. Thank you guys for watching.